Hey, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I am Tamara Johnson Shealy. It is Saturday morning, y'all. Oh, it is bright and sunny in Georgia. I am excited. I have a very special guest for you. I have been waiting on this man. I had to schedule him out a month. This is how busy this man is, right? It took me a month just to get him on our little calendar, but I am so happy that he would grace us with his presence this morning. But I am Tamara Johnson Shealy, y'all. This morning we give, as usual, we give voice to issues and activists and activism. We're stomping. We're not scared. We talk about reparations. We talk about it. We all about it. So let's not even wait. Like I said, we've been waiting to have this man on. I think my trusty co-host is here. Let me see if she's here. She's here. Good morning, Robbie. Everybody been missing you, girl.
I missed y'all. I tried to stay away the whole month.
Yeah, I know. Look, you know this thing calling you.
Yes,
you know this movement, girl. It's in your blood. This is in your blood. You can't stay away.
You're probably right. I couldn't even help myself. But yeah, of course I listened to you last week and I shared the show, and you did such a great job, man. It was great. It was great, Chica.
Look, and you know what's so crazy? Good morning, Universal Mike. Good morning, Mr. Sachin in Ohio. Good morning, Don. Look at that. They coming in this morning, Mr. Robert. Good morning. Good morning. I said to somebody, I said, y'all like for me to act up. Y'all like it when I act up, when I have to go ham on somebody.
I think that's one of the reasons you resonate with me as well, Tamara, because you give people not permission, it's not the right word, but you're expressing what people are feeling. And people need that. They need to see and have, oh, hey, thank you. They need to see and have support in those communities. We need to support each other. Mm-hmm. And when we see one person do it, we all kind of can come together with that. And we're a lot stronger that way.
Yes. So we're in this thing, girl. You can't stay away. They were looking for you. Where's Robbie? Where's David? I told you, David's tired, y'all. They've been doing this work for 40 years. He's tired.
And it's also good to let people, if David needs a break, cool. Because that is about advocacy, is about support. There's recently, and supporting not only the community, but advocates. There's an article with Tamika Mallory, who I don't know if it's true or not, but she has some people harassing her, stalking her. This work is a lot and it can weigh on you.
Mm-hmm. And you have to take a break. You need a mental break. You need a moment. I'm going to take one. I hadn't taken but a few, but I'm going to take one day soon.
Well, a lot of times we leave advocates out to dry, even like doing the work. And then you see someone flip. And someone is like, well, why? It's like, well, because they're burnt out. It's too much. It needs to be a movement.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, our guest is here. Mr. David Ragland. He is traveling. Robbie, it took me a year to get this man, not a year, a month. It took me a month to get this man on our calendar, but I was determined to wait it out. Like whenever he could come, we were going to be glad to have him. Mr. David Ragland, welcome to our broadcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I just want to comment that, rest is reparative.
Amen, brother. You have to repair to do this work.
Especially in our community, for us, it's urgently important.
It is. Welcome to the broadcast. For those of you who don't know, let me tell you who this man is. David Ragland is one of the co-founders and co-executive director of the Truth Telling Project and the director of the Grassroots Campaign, the Grassroots Reparations Campaign. Georgetown University's advocacy lab included Dr. Ragland's research as part of the most important research on advocacy in the last 40 years. David was recently inducted into the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Collegium. Am I saying that word right, sir? Correct me.
You close. Collegium.
Collegium of Scholars at Morehouse College. I'm not one of those scholars. He served as a senior Bayard Rustin Fellow at fellow at Fellowship of Reconciliation, and as a board member for the Peace and Justice Studies Association. Recent publications include Truth Telling and Decolonial Human Rights Education in the repository of usfca.edu. Welcome to the broadcast. Welcome to our platform. We're just happy to have you. We stomp for reparations over here on this over here in Georgia, and just to have you to grace us, it is totally a pleasure. So thank you for joining us. Uh-oh. Can you hear us, sir? He is traveling. Can you hear us, Mr. Ragland? You can there you go. That may help with the bandwidth. Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Okay, I can hear you now. For a minute, I just couldn't hear you. I could see you, and I had all the bars, and it's just. But I missed a lot. I missed everything you said after you talked about my bio.
Well, we were waiting on you to chime in and welcome you to our broadcast. And like I said, we believe in reparations on this in Georgia. I ran for the United States Senate right here in the great state of Georgia, and had a strong, bold agenda, that included reparations. You want to talk about your work there and tell us more about yourself?
Sure. So, I mean, part of my work is directly. It came out of the Ferguson protests. You mentioned that I'm the co-founder of the Truth Telling Project, which I helped to start with Congresswoman Cori Bush when we were on the ground together in Ferguson, and we started that project as a truth commission around people who have been victimized and have family members murdered by police. And we did a series of hearings in Ferguson where people from all over the country came and shared their stories, particularly so we could tell our own stories and create our own narrative and come up with possibilities, recommendations for healing. And so we were in the middle of having hearings, and I think it was 2017, and when we did hearings, we tried to have hearings and people tell their stories within the context of ceremony, that our stories are important and sacred. And one of the drummers
He's traveling, y'all.
He's probably going through woods.
Yeah. He's in. We're losing sound, Mr. Ragland. Can you hear us? Yep, he's frozen, Robbie. He's frozen.
I wonder if it's an area we can have him when he passes that area.
I'm gonna put him in the Yep, now he's dropped. Yeah. Yikes.
Sounds like he's doing great work, and y'all have a lot in common with the reparations, advocacy. Georgia has a reparations committee now.
Speak on it, sis.
No, I don't know a lot about it. Actually, one of our colleagues, allies, guests, Marcus Coleman, was appointed to it. That's how I found out about it. And he's been
Fulton County, specifically Fulton County here in Georgia.
Yeah, he actually was appointed by my commissioner, Marvin Arrington. And I'm glad, obviously Marcus is on it. Hopefully that will bring, me too. That will bring, a sense of level, a sense of someone actually out there doing the work, not hopefully just people kind of working on it in theory.
Yeah. This is heavy lifting, and the more eyes and more hands we have in this the better. I think Mr. Ragland is back. Are you back, sir?
I am. I'm so sorry, and I deeply apologize. And I would like to come on. I can finish, our conversation, but I'd like to come back if you have me at a time when I'm closer to the internet. But I'd love to finish this conversation too. So
Yes, yes.
I
We're definitely going to
apologize.
have you back. Go ahead, pick up where you were. We didn't get much of what you were saying. You kind of went out early.
Okay. So what we essentially really found out in our work in Ferguson and was that there should never be a place where there's truth telling, um, and reparations is not in a conversation. And I don't know if like we created a project in Ferguson where we were trying to create a truth process or truth and reconciliation process around police violence, and we came to the understanding that there should never be a place where people are telling.
Did he go out?
He did again. Yeah, he's having some terrible internet, y'all. But this is the world we live in today. He's back though. I think that's him coming back. Are you back?
Third time's the charm.
We can't hear you. Yeah, we can't hear you, Mr. Ragland. We can't hear you. No sound, sir. We can't hear you. So what we'll do, Mr. Ragland, can you hear us?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We'll keep trying, and if it goes out again, we'll just bring you back as soon as you can come back. We'll call it a day for the day, and Robbie and I will take it from here. But you want to start? You said the truth telling, you can't have it. Go.
This is what we heard, that your work arose out of the work in Ferguson, and that you came to a conclusion that there can't be truth telling without reparations being included in that discussion, and that it was pertinent to speak from your own stories and not have other people create a narrative that wasn't complete. So, but
exactly, and I think another way to put it is that we were really being pushed to forgive, to talk about reconciliation, and we just didn't think that was appropriate because forgiveness is important personally. Like, you have to forgive people sometimes in your heart to move on as an individual, but as a community, it's political.
yeah.
It is political, especially among a community that's been constantly harassed and brutalized and intentionally and occupied by police who are direct descendants of the institution of those slave catchers. So it is urgently important that we think about as people, because not everybody, like, forgiveness is a conscious, engaged, process where there has to be power on both sides. You know what I mean? Like, somebody can't be forced into forgiveness. Someone can't be continuously being abused while they forgive you. It's like, we felt in Ferguson that, people wanted us to be forgiving to police as they was whooping our behinds. And I was about to say something else, but I was just like, let me chill. Um, but we really started. We think and believe that the midpoint between truth and reconciliations is reparations, and that reparations is a legal, and a economic and a spiritual matter. Um, but that reparations, we were looking at it from the perspective that reparations is not just compensation, but the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America describes what we need as full reparations, and they look at the UN definition of reparations as compensation, cut a check, but also healing. How is healing happening mentally, physically, and spiritually? Given that when we were brought here in chains, our religion was stolen, our personhoods were stolen, our names were changed, and then on top of that, trauma, right, that was passed down generationally, and that trauma is often on top of other traumas that each generation was experienced. So healing is urgently important. The other dimensions are education. How do we educate and shift the culture um, so that number one, generations of white people actually have the truth. We know the way that Texas has a big impact on the way textbooks are manufactured because of their market is so big. Many textbooks will just say, "All right, Texas, what you want?" And but also like if you think about the memorials, if you think about the memorials to Confederates, right, that are up all over the place. If you think about um, even naming the truth about the American presidents who owned slaves and had children, right, with black women forcibly, right? You can't have a consensual relationship with someone who's enslaved, right? And so that the truth about our history is urgently important because people grow up learning a lie, and that education has to begin early. The education about the way communities were gentrified, when people are lynched in communities, like that history has to be told. Um, the other dimensions of reparations are restitution, returning what is stolen. And we see that being discussed right now in Bruce County in California, where we're looking at the news and seeing how in California black folks were ran off of their land, and that land is now worth millions and millions of dollars, and it's nothing to do but return that land. And then the other piece is guarantees of non-repeat. How do you guarantee, right? How do you change the laws? How do you change structures? How do we abolish police? And how do we abolish the institutions that emerged out of slavery so that we don't continue this cycle? How do we abolish the police in our heads that tell us we need police to deal with our basic needs or to keep us safe when they don't keep us safe? When if something is stolen from our house, we call the police. They ain't worried about us, right? When we call the police, we have mental health issues, like we end up not alive, right? Sister Makia Bryant, or and so for us, reparations is not just about cutting a check; it's about abolishing the system that continues out of slavery, and including the system of slavery that continues through American prisons, because the U.S. Constitution, right, as slavery was abolished, allowed slavery to continue in the exception of incarceration, right? And so, like, we have to see that it wasn't just back then; it is an ongoing issue and process, and it has to be about reversing these and ending these institutions, and also um, acknowledging that all of this land is stolen. And so reparations, I think, is a continuation of what Frederick Douglass was working on as an abolitionist. And what I encourage folks to do is think about not just reparations, but being a reparationist. I think that's what we're called to in this moment. Reparations is the new and urgent abolition.
Amazing.
Amazing, right, Robbie? Like I told you, it took me a year to get him. No, not a year, but a month to get him. But we got him.
I'm so grateful to hear and relieved to hear how comprehensive the viewpoint and structure of the work is, because I was scared, really, and we haven't heard a lot of people discuss it so inclusively and comprehensively. And it makes perfect sense, because and I see these repetitive patterns, and I'm so glad that there's that this work is looking into the non-repeat and viewing it as an abolitionist or reparationist, because I live in a gentrified area, in one of the lower income districts in Atlanta. And this lack of inclusivity, this purposeful creating the narrative, purposely controlling things, forcing this component of white fragility and changing the direction of the conversation is so punitive, damaging, and really it makes us all unsafe. And you're one of the first people that I've heard address this in a way that actually there's hope for it, where we're including, me too, we're including education, we're including the past of what happened. We're not letting people say, just forgive, we need to move on. This argument that people have of, I didn't own slaves. Yeah, but you benefited from your family or whoever did own those slaves, or no one in my family owns slaves. Yeah, but you benefited from a system of people that owned slaves, and the people who were slaves had the opposite, with constant punitive trauma, literally in PTSD. And now you just want to turn around and say, well, let's all forgive and we need to move on. Well, that's not going to work.
I mean, if your grandparents just got off the boat at Ellis Island, you owe reparations, because you walked into a system that was actively benefiting from slavery and the world slavery created and the world colonization created. The way that our blood was mixed into this, like it's no way around it anywhere. If you live in New York City, or people came there and you enjoy Central Park, that was a black town. That was Seneca Village. Like, it is like we are part of this fabric in this country, and until America realizes that reparations is a spiritual issue, it is about the death, the dying, on the respirator of the American soul, and that reparations is about bringing it back to life, because it's for white folks too. Like, to actually look at the wealth that you inherited, that you are drawing interest from death. What is interest from death and murder? Nothing at all. And so, we've been looking at reparations as, something that the government owes, that churches owe, that schools owe, K through 12, private schools.
We're getting feedback again, Mr. Ragland. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. I don't know if you can hear.
Lost with something.
Yeah. Let's give it a second.
Okay.
Let's see if we can bring him back. Boy.
Yeah.
Hit that like button, y'all. Reparations over there, everything. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit that notifications button, please. And share this broadcast. Share this broadcast.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can bring it back. Can we hear you, Mr. Ragland?
Yeah, I'm here. I just was in the backstage. I don't,
Yeah.
Yeah. But
We got some weird feedback on it, so it was probably helpful to take you out and bring you back in. But,
okay. Cool. Yeah. I was just thinking. I was I was just gonna close up and just say that there's what we call, like, there's a direct correlation between Black suffering, right, and I don't even think it's privilege. I think it is the way white people move and encounter and are treated in the world, um, because it is not a it's not a privilege, right? Because it inflates one's sense of self, and it also, like, creates this unrealistic sense of who white people are, and I think part of reparations has to be white folk reconnecting with who they are, because, it's like reparations for Black people could also mean that white people learn and understand the ways in which white supremacy has damaged them. Because if we understand history, we know, and this is, Resma Menachem, who's the author of My Grandmother's Hands, writes about the way that white people came to the United States escaping trauma, right, and came broken and wounded to this country, to these lands, and instead of being healed, right, instead of, like, addressing trauma, they got the salve or the fake medicine that they're better than everybody else who's not white. And that actually is so damaging. And so, but also, like, I think that we need reparations um, to heal this entire country, and to, I think, address, um, you know, long-term and continuing institutional problem and corporate violence. Um, and I just want to say this before I close, that, like, it's really important that we think about reparations in its fullness, because otherwise they'll be cutting the check and calling us a nigga tomorrow. Cut a check today and call us a nigga tomorrow, or kill us tomorrow, right? Um, and reparations has to be something that every American, every white person is engaged in, even if they don't have the money. They have to be working on healing themselves and working on healing the trauma and changing themselves. Like, we need to build a culture of reparations in order to survive, the damage that extractive capitalism and white supremacy has done on everybody. But also, reparations is so important because it could mean that America could, for once, be accountable. And being accountable in reparations for something that's at the core of who America is, could actually mean accountability for America around the world. It would mean that if reparations involve guarantees of non-repeat for the United States, that would have to mean guarantees of non-repeat for everywhere, right? Where the U.S. is funding the murder of Palestinians right now, our tax dollars. The U.S. just put $3.8 billion, right? I think it's more than that, to Israel just this year alone, right? And over 400 million to Colombia, who's murdering activists right now in the streets. Reparations is a global project, or reparations for Black people in America could mean something for everybody around the world. Do you know that the U.S. has invaded every single country in Latin America except for two? Right? At the turn of the 19th century, the United States fought World War I to stop colonialism in Europe and imperialism. And what did they do? They picked up and became the imperial power, colonizing Puerto Rico and Guam. Right? Um, so, God don't like ugly. God don't like ugly. Whether you are ugly to folks in the United States or ugly to folks in other countries. And yeah, I think that reparations could be something, you know.
Mr. Ragland, we know that you are traveling, and I just want to thank you for taking an opportunity this morning to grace us with your presence and share and help us to continue in this fight. You know, this is bigger than all of us, and it's going to take all of us to do it. So when you get settled, I'll hit you up and let's see if we can get you back on this broadcast sometime in the near future. Juneteenth is approaching. I'd love to bring you back closer to that time.
Okay.
You're a wealth of knowledge and you are a friend to this broadcast, and we look forward to having you back.
Thank you all for having me. And also, if folks ask questions, please, you can email me and I'll answer them as well. So it's such a pleasure, and I'm so sorry for not being in a steady place when we did this. Thank you all.
We were just glad to have you, sir. Yes, I'll reach back and we'll go from there. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Unmute.
Now that's a reverend.
There it is. Reparations, Robbie. Oh, he said,
he's on point about everything.
Yeah, he talked about, how white people reconnecting with who they are. This is a hard pill to swallow. Actually, this week on Clubhouse, for those of you that are on the Clubhouse app, I'm hosting a room with a white woman, and she and I are calling this conversations, hard conversations, white women, black women, let's talk. And we had our first room. We hosted our first room this past Thursday. And on the heels of him saying, white people have to reconnect with who they are, that's a reckoning that they are not always willing to, that they're not willing to go that deep and go that far. And it's a process because
they get mad.
Yeah.
They get mad and try to destroy you.
Yeah. In this room, though, thankfully in this room, Robbie, there were women who had kind of come to a place where they understood that they had work to do. And that was to me that's like an alcoholic admitting, yes, I'm an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. So they were the women that actually came to this first room, this first space, they were actually saying, I have work to do. Mm-hmm. And that was refreshing. But they know that, they were in a safe space, with us, those of us, the black women that were in that room, they were in a safe space. But this is heavy lifting, and, white people recognizing, he said, white supremacy damaged them and how they escaped trauma when they came here to establish these quote unquote newfound lands. This land wasn't lost, and nobody here was a lost people, but okay. These newfound lands that they colonized, they hurt people, and they came over here and bought the hurt that they experienced and hurt other people. Mm-hmm. So that's where we are, Robbie.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad he brought up the spirituality component and the education component, because the problem is we don't teach history, so they don't even know who they are. And they damn sure are not clear on who benefited, who didn't, and we have a lot of excuses. And from a spiritual component, the simple understanding of the law of reciprocity should really be enough. You cannot expect, it's unreasonable to expect people to accept trauma after trauma after trauma, whether it's the war on drugs, whether it's removal of, family members, whether it's loss of identity, whether it's the war on poverty, which was really locking everyone up, whether it's changing from slavery to allowing convict labor, literally bodies, people's remains are in bricks in our buildings, that are now coming to light here, even in Atlanta, to think that we allow, 3 classes of education minimally, and that some people can get this wonderful education, whether it's a private school or a charter school, and that someone in a public school who barely has a textbook, who is living in a divested area, who has, a family that's been traumatized, is going to be able to compete equitably, is ludicrous. It's ludicrous.
Mm-hmm.
And we fund this with our taxes. And everything that he stated all ties together. He's absolutely right. When he brought up Latin America and the colonization of the entire, continent, with the exception of 2 countries, when Biden issues orders that we can have visas, that's why those bridges are full of Latin people coming here who will allow abuse just to work, because all of those countries were colonized too, were attacked, invaded, whatever you want to call it. And then we wind up arguing with each other because these people who won't complain about anything because they can't, because then it's just like, we'll take your little work visa and get the hell on, right? That's why when you look at the construction in Atlanta, that's everybody who's building it. And then what do we have? We have people who are citizens here, Black people, who won't get hired because they would prefer to hire a brown person who's not going to kick back because he can't. Because he can't. Or she can't. And operating this way is really harming everyone, including the oppressor. It doesn't make anyone else safe. It doesn't make us safe. It's not, it causes more costs. We put wealthy people, gentrifiers next to poor people and think that people are going to get along. And that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
And that speaks to the crime, Robbie. I saw, they were talking about the crime in Atlanta. You're right. When you're gentrifying these communities, you're putting people with money and displacing the people who are, like you call them, legacy residents, who've lived in these communities for generations. You're displacing these people, building McMansions next to their house, causing their property values to go through the roof. They can't afford to even live in their own homes anymore because you've moved in. So what do you think? There's not going to be some sort of animosity. There's going to be people that are angry, and you're going to have crime.
Exactly, especially when you don't allow them to be part of the neighborhood association. By charging monetary dues. You don't allow them a voice. You take over the NPU. You have more means, the neighborhood planning unit. The city listens to them. Our Atlanta City Council acknowledges, the newer residents as the community. You are literally shutting out the needs of large, massive pockets, legacy resident communities, predominantly Black people, lower income people, and expect that there is no backlash. It don't take a planner to understand that. And that's why I'm literally watching you last week and the announcement with the change in leadership and Mayor Bottoms choosing not to run again. I immediately, this is a unique situation. And the people that are, stepping into the race, they have all been part of this problem. I heard Andre Dickens was running. Felicia Moore is obviously running. Felicia Moore is heavy on enforcement. She has ties to Buckhead, who want nothing but enforcement. They don't understand anything that we've just discussed or that the Reverend was talking about. And if they put her in office, she will be beholden to execute that agenda. Andre Dickens is an at-large. He's an at-large council person. He arose out of the NPU. He has not changed this issue with the monetary dues. He listens to gentrifiers. He has been able to be in a position throughout this entire time to run comprehensive planning, to issue, a leadership position and say, Southwest Atlanta or Southside communities need large-scale job creation. And he has not done so. So why would we think that the solutions are going to come out of the same, problems that arose? That doesn't make sense. It's nonsensical. So we have an opportunity now to hold people accountable. You want our vote? You want our vote? Well, what are you going to do on this policy? We're going to record them and make them put it in writing so that when and if they do get in office, no, you stated this on this day, and this is how you got our vote. So we want this and nothing less. We collectively, we don't want to pay for things that don't work. It wasn't a shock that the gentrification happened here, and it's an excuse. And I've heard Felicia Moore say it. It's an excuse to say it's happening all over the country. No, it happened on the East Coast and the West Coast first. We had an opportunity. We brought in tours. It wasn't hard to see what was going to happen. And it was issue after issue after issue. And this happened under Mayor Bottoms, who's really Mayor Reed. And now Mayor Reed is looking like he's making a comeback.
He better not.
I
don't know. I don't know whether he just kind of likes the spotlight and likes to kind of stay in the mix. And this is a power, this is a power move for him. Maybe
those contracts are very lucrative, and we have to figure out now some type of strategy, because the Republicans want the airport, the Democrats want Georgia. They got the 2 senators, which is probably why Reed wasn't indicted, to be very plain about it. And because the DNC would never have allowed that. Keisha Lance Bottoms was extremely impaired. I mean, she was very helpful to the DNC, giving those 2 seats, Ossoff and Warnock, who, frankly, what have they done?
Facts. Shayna says facts. She says, Robbie, have you thought about running for mayor?
I will work my little tail off, or whoever it is. No, and the reason I took a break is because this real estate stuff is really shaking up. And what I need to do is get in a position where I can talk about all the industry problems without people coming for my clients. That's really what matters to me. I don't want to expose my clients or my business to something that's going to jeopardize them because I'm not in the position to speak freely. I own the firm, so I can to a degree. But I presented for Invest Atlanta, and all these gentrifiers lost their minds when they saw me presenting on the Invest Atlanta page. And they, of course, being who they are, contacted Invest Atlanta and made this big to-do. And Invest Atlanta didn't know about it. And ironically, the Invest Atlanta rep was like, they actually said, we don't know if we can have you back on because this is the community. And I'm like, this is not the community. And they're like, we've never had this happen before. And I'm like, yeah, because you never had a real one on before, and so we got through it. But it made me realize that I really need to be in a position to handle these industry components that nobody else is going to talk about because they can't. Real estate is very monopolized to a degree. And one large parent company owns like 7 companies, and they operating in such a way that is really damaging to the general public. And we as taxpayers are kind of subsidizing these private developments. That's what you see with all this affordable housing. And it's apartments. So it's no wealth creation. And
that's what pissed me off. Stay there, Robbie. When you see affordable housing and we see the Democrats touting affordable housing, affordable housing, affordable housing. Y'all, these are damn apartments. Like Robbie just said, there's no generational wealth and affordable housing. That's just saying you got somewhere to work, you got somewhere to live. There's no generational wealth.
You got somewhere to keep you where we need you in your low-paying job where you can't say a word, because if you do, you're going to lose your housing too. Mm-hmm. It makes money for the developer. It makes we as a city, okay, we paid our politicians their tax-funded salaries. And I hate when people say, oh, you're living on a government check. That's what a politician is. They're living on a government check. And we paid people who live on our government checks to come send in new residents and tour buses to buy everything up, to displace our residents, to now fund our lower income residents in apartments. It doesn't take a planner to see what would have happened. And this happened under our current leadership, including Councilwoman Felicia Moore, including Andre Dickens at large, Atlanta City Council. So if we want the same, if we're happy with the same, if you like what has happened, then vote for the same. I'm very curious, or what are we going to do? I'm very curious about Antonio Brown, because he kind of got in there on Cleta Winslow's seat, and about 15 people ran for that seat. He is not part of that old establishment. I just don't know if he fully understands, how to not repeat it. Because everybody, they all take pictures on IG, like when they do their LA trips and when they do their proclamations and their beautiful dinner. I have copies of all of it, and they live very comfortably. And so they're all really buddy-buddy. It's very similar to the Democrats and Republicans. These people are buddy-buddy. We get a marketing show.
Yeah, and I've said this. I said it. The higher up the food chain you go politically, These are all the same people. These are all the same people. They're and what you see in the media, what is portrayed in the media is not the story. That's not the truth.
It's not the reality. It's exactly what the Reverend said. Taking over the narrative, pushing what, we need to move on, we need to heal. What are you talking about? You're not even who was maligned. Why do you get to say what needs to happen?
Mm-hmm. And I called out Kamala Harris for that on the heels of Tim Scott, Robbie, as Tim Scott was saying America's not a racist country, and she comes behind him and echoes that sentiment as if she can speak for us.
And I'm glad you did, because what happens is that these people are strategically picked with this image, and so people get confused because you're looking at an image and thinking that you're alike, but it really matters how this person thinks and how this person acts and what they're going to do in action. It half almost doesn't even matter what they say, because if you're not going to take that information and make it into an action that's going to impact people, then your words mean nothing. They do nothing for people.
Mm-hmm. But we live on those words. I don't know what it is about us when we go to the polls and we willfully vote ignorantly. This willful ignorance. We go to the polls, we might see a sign, we might see a commercial. I like this person. We can't do that going into this 2021 election for mayor of Atlanta. We can't do that going into 2022 into these congressional seats, to these U.S. Senate seats. We can't do that.
We can't. And I'm not trying to make excuses for people or even myself, but I think there's a double component. We don't even know who's telling the truth anymore. The media is so pitiful. And that's why I'm so grateful for this show. But the media is so pitiful. They're so bought. Those corporations are so bought by these lobbyists and so on. They're just literally bombarding us with what is a half truth. And we can't even tell anymore. And in my community, these divested communities, people are so used to being disrespected that somebody gives you a piece of pound cake and you know their name and they're like, I got to vote for this, because the level of disrespect and decay and divestment over here is beyond. And I really, it's truly incredible. There haven't been more problems, but they're coming. And this component, when it's scary when I see people of color call for more enforcement or fall for being like the person who will lead, kind of a white supremacist argument as a person of color, because they can say these things like Kamala did. And because the people behind them don't want to stand in front because they know what it would look like then. Mm-hmm. And I kind of wonder if Mayor Bottoms, to a degree, operated in that capacity, because I think she's out because she's like, this is not fixable, with the authority that I have. And she doesn't want to be the fall person.
There it is. You nailed it right there, Robbie. She does not want to be the fall person because this thing is crumbling. The city of Atlanta will be under some sort of, the state wants the airport. They want the airport. And she can't control in many capacities. She couldn't control what was happening. This was probably too far gone when she took the seat. Then it, under her leadership, it just exacerbated, got worse. It just was terrible. And she's just, to a place now, I think she's tired. So when Keisha Lance Bottoms said, I'm not going to run again, I was so not surprised. I was like, I know.
I was surprised. I mean, I'm looking at the comments. I was surprised, really. I mean, I don't know who walks away like that, but she has so many issues. Like she probably agrees that the police are a problem, but then she can't do anything about it, because people don't understand the entire discussion that the Reverend was talking about and what the police arose out of. Mm-hmm. And what can she do about affordable housing now? She has made these promises and she doesn't know how to fix it, but I kind of don't have a full ¿cómo se dice? A full sympathy for her, because we attempted so many times. Even today, we're still willing to give her the root of the issue and the solutions, like in real estate industry issues. And she doesn't take it. She goes on public TV, on a press conference, and says, if you have real solutions on making a committee, tell me, help us. But she won't take it. So I don't really know how to feel about her.
She probably can't take it.
But she won't even listen. It's strange. This is someone who came to Southwest Atlanta on a town hall, and I literally stuck my neck out publicly and said, this is what I've seen. This is what I'm witnessed. Will you agree to meet? We will, and followed up on email. Here are the holes. Here are the industry issues. We have whistleblowers lined up to give you the problems. Nobody does that. Nobody sticks their neck out like that, because they'll come for your family, your business, your clients, your reputation, all of it. They'll use agency against you, like they're doing with the community movement builders in Pittsburgh and Kamau. And she didn't take it.
Well, here's Shayna says, she thought she was going to get the come up in the Biden administration, and those dreams were dashed. And I think so too. I think she, anticipated something. And then, when nothing came out of this Biden, election, I think she was like, I'm tired and I'm done. I gave all I had and did all I could and did, delivered. And they offered her some island,
well, I want to go to an island. Like that to me.
Maybe she should have took that right about now. She could be on that island, chilling.
What's wrong with the island?
Maybe that's where she end up. Maybe that opportunity is still on the table. She might need that island. Yeah.
I'm not sure what happened in Savannah. There's a comment from Mr. Cohen. Continues to happen in Savannah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. He'll have to explain. So so one thing in the news, Robbie, he said bottom is control opposition. That's yeah.
I believe that.
Ambassadorship. Yeah, the ambassadorship to some island, somebody put in the chat if you know what it was. Mm-hmm. But I saw where Governor Kemp is getting ready to late June take away the unemployment for those who have been receiving unemployment here in Georgia. That was a conversation. I was on the broadcast yesterday under the Gold Dome, and it came up, and I actually already saw the article, but it's disheartening. I see this in two ways, right? There are a lot of jobs out here that don't pay well, that are like struggling to get people to come back to work.
Yeah.
Because those unemployment checks exceeded what they were making going to work every day. Well,
right.
Hell, why would you go to work every day and bust your behind for a job that you could stay home and get more on unemployment?
And then probably treats you bad, disrespects you, doesn't appreciate you. Things are a mess there. Is not organized. You just get stressed.
Yeah. So this was a good come up. Now, this was a come up for those that wanted to come out of these low paying jobs that, like you said, the work environment was probably toxic. So this was a good come up.
Poverty wages, you don't have good medical, people talk to you all kinds of ways. You can't do anything about it because we're not unionized. We're
exactly right to work state. So I see it in two ways. Here's where Kemp could have gotten this right. Okay, Kemp, you want to put people back to work? Demand that these employers pay these people a higher wage. I mean, damn. I mean, if he wanted to do this right, all you have to do is demand, raise the Georgia's minimum wage is what, $5.15 or something? It's nothing. Raise $7.25 is the minimum, federal minimum, but push Georgia, the businesses in Georgia, to give their workers, their employees, a significant increase, and that would have kind of made this a better transition instead of you just snatching these checks away from people that people who need it the most.
Right.
You snatching these checks away from them and sending them back out here to the plantation, back into the fields.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're gearing up for, I don't know for the smackdown. I think they're gearing up to arrest everybody. I think the struggle between, you know, defunding the jail, defunding the police, reforming the jail, and transforming it. You know, the Republicans are like, no, you know, they see it like, we want order, we want the police, we won't have this rioting in the streets. You know, we're not a racist country, i.e. Kamala. America's not racist. They don't understand history. My family didn't own slaves. I've never had a slave. Y'all need to get over it. We all need to get along. It's time to move on. You know, they put up we paid for iron gates all around the Capitol. Like, why do we need that? So, and you know, the Democrats, we have Biden. I mean, we have Biden who basically increased the money for affordable housing 4 times when what's this, drywall alone, materials alone have skyrocketed. I mean, what is this? There's a material, the plywood. Plywood alone is like $260, you know, a foot. How are we going to build affordable housing like that? How we cannot is the point. And on top of it, it's just apartments. So I
think that we haven't seen the beginning of this. Things are about to get bad, and Democrats are not even pretending to fight back.
I mean, we have a leader who I'm not even sure is coherent. You know, people joke about, you know, sometimes he's coherent, sometimes he's not. Like, maybe they're injecting him up. You know, he is literally a figurehead. Mm-hmm. We need to understand that. We have a leader who's just a figurehead, who is a career politician. He's never had even a real job. We cannot expect people to understand the plight of working people who've always had a government check.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Robbie, this was an excellent broadcast. Everybody missed you, girl.
Oh, me too. I missed y'all too. I saw you. I was like, bring me back on. I was like, I'm here. Send me the link. I just can't help myself. So I'm just gonna stop. You know, what is that? Trying to be different. I'll be here.
Thank you, Robbie. You know, this fight is bigger than us, and it will take all of us to do it. You know, we're in this for the long haul. This is who we are. You know, you didn't choose this, Robbie. You were chosen. And I'm clear that I was chosen to do this as well. But we're almost at the top of the hour. You can always find Miss Robbie Caban at robbiecaban.com. You can find me at tamarasheely.com, where we give voice to issues, activists, and activism right here in the great state of Georgia. Follow us, follow this broadcast, share, hit the notification button, the like. Subscribe if you haven't here on YouTube. And we're on YouTube because the algorithms and the censorship on Facebook, we're driving our numbers in the can. So we're not going to continue to put, you know, put our energies into a bucket with a hole in it. It was not working for us over there. So we're going to be on YouTube. You know, Robbie and I, we're here. We'll be back next week, same time, right here at the top of the hour, 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 12 noon. Robbie, thank you.
Thank you so much, Tamara. I'll see you soon.
See you soon, everybody. Bye. Have a great week. And thank you, Mr. Ragland, for joining us. We're definitely going to have him back. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.